Are you guys ready for this? I can't wait to show you this. This blanket is just stunning. It's gorgeous. You know, just sit tight and we're going to get started right now. My super secret project turned out just stunning. I mean, absolutely stunning. I couldn't have asked for it to come out better. I actually think it's one of the prettiest, if not the prettiest, Afghans I have ever crocheted in my entire life. I know that's saying a lot, but I don't know, I can't remember them all, but I think it turned out just stunning. So let's take a look at this. It's got the fringe on both sides. Both sides are equally nice, so there is no front or back side. And depending on what angle you're looking at it, the effect of the colors are just slightly different. So it's just gorgeous, gorgeous. When Jenna saw it, she's like, "Ooh, Hufflepuff." I'm like, "No." And then she's like, "Can I have it when you're done?" And I just give her the look like, can I keep anything that I make? It's craziness. So, not to mention, her cat won't leave it alone. He keeps wanting to lay on it. And I don't like that. I'm like, I want to use it first. Let me get my hair in it first before you get your hair in it. But anyways, so what I used for this project is the Premier anti-pilling everyday bobbins. The ones that I said I'm determined to use these. And first, a little history. It feels wonderful. When it's worked up, it's all squishy. It just feels great. It's anti-pilling, so it's going to last longer before it starts looking all gross and everything. And the thing I didn't care for about this yarn, and I said it before, is I have to be very deliberate with my stitches because find an end here. Anyways, the ends fray real easy. I got an end. See how that's starting to unravel, and it kind of unwinds as you're working with it. So that was the one thing I didn't like about it. I would have to be very deliberate with my stitches and work a little bit slower. But other than that, I do like it. I like how it feels. I like the end results. So what I used this color, and it is called Goldenrod. Each color is supposed to be 181 yards. So the total skein is 543 yards. I used 2 yellow, plus I had to get into a third just for this color here. And I'll explain that in just a second. And 2 of this gray, which is called Serious Gray. So, but I didn't use the complete one of the second one. And on the Goldenrod, the lighter 2 colors, I didn't use all of it. It's just with the darker yellow, that is the color that I started with and ended with on each side, all 4 sides. So it used a little bit more than it did on the other ones. Okay, so I also used a 5mm crochet hook. and a very large eye yarn needle for weaving, because you're going to combine two techniques with this. So the pattern went like this. I chained 224. I did a return row of single crochets, which gave me 223 stitches. I then started a filet mesh, and that is chain 3. The chain 3 counts as a double crochet and a chain 1, skip a stitch, and then double crochet. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet. So I had 6 colors. I started with the darker yellow, went to the blended yellow, then the light yellow, switched to the gray, did the darkest gray, the blended gray, and then the lightest gray. And I repeated that pattern 5 times, and then ended with a row of the darker yellow. So to show people who do not know how to do a filet chain or a filet mesh, that's the foundation for our blanket, we're going to do this small little example. And for the example, I have chained 12. I'm doing a return row of single crochet. The loop on your hook does not count as a stitch, so you go to the second completed stitch from the hook and start your single crochet. At the end of that row, I will chain 3. It counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. I will skip the first stitch, double crochet in the next, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet. And you do that all the way to the end. Then it's chain 3 and turn. On the second row of the mesh, your chain 3 counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. You'll double crochet in the top of the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the top of the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the top of the double crochet to the end of your row. And that's how you just repeat it. When you get to the end of the row where it is the starting chain 3, you're going to put your last double crochet in the second chain in the middle. It'll just, you'll end up with nice straight sides doing it that way. Just trust me. So we've chained 224, we've returned with 223 single crochets, and we've started our filet mesh, and we've made it to the end of our row. So we should have 112 double crochets, counting your chain 3 turning chain, and 111 chain spaces, the little filet empty boxes. You can do that all the way up. You're going to repeat your color pattern 5 times. You're going to end with your starting color. Once you've completed your filet mesh foundation, you're going to need to cut 3 strands of each color for each row of that color. So we started off with 3 rows of goldenrod. We need 9 strands, 3 for each of those rows. And then our blended yellow, 3 for each of those rows. And our so on and so forth. So when you cut them, you measure your blanket. Give yourself several inches on either side because you're going to have a fringe on either side at the end. Measure often. When you cut a string and then you tend to use that string to measure more. Somehow they just keep getting longer and longer and longer. I don't know how it happens, but they just grow. So after, every so many, measure another one so that you don't end up wasting a whole ton of yarn, because they will grow longer and longer and longer with each one. I don't know how, but it happens. So once you have all your strands cut, keep them separated by color. You're going to take your blanket. When you crocheted it, your stripes were horizontal. So you want to turn it so that your stripes are vertical. And you're going to start with the same color that you started with at the beginning of your chain mesh. And in my case, it is the darker goldenrod yellow. So I'm going to weave in with my blanket turned where the lines are vertical instead of horizontal, the colored lines. And I'm going to start with an over-under pattern. So I'm going to, the very edge, I'm going to go over that, under the next stitch, over the stitch, under the next, over the next, just over, under. Then the second row, I'm going to start off with under the first stitch, over the second, under the third, over the fourth, and so on to the end. The third row, I'm back to over the first, under the second, over the third. It's over, under. You want to alternate it. It's weaving. We are combining two techniques to make this gorgeous blanket. And remember, you're going to use 3 strands for each row. And every 3 rows, you change colors, following the same color pattern that you did your mesh foundation with. So once you have woven in all your strands, you're going to need to find a large flat surface. The floor, a bed. If your dining room table's big enough, your dining room table, mine wasn't. And if I get down on the floor, I might not be able to get back up. Just saying. It's not as easy as it used to be. So I ended up using the king size bed. Spread it out. Make sure your sides are all nice and straight. You don't, you know what I'm saying. Lay it out flat, straighten it out. And then you're going to take from your first color, the first 9 from the first color, the 9 strands that are woven into the 3 rows. So you have 3, 3, and 3. You're going to take those, group it together, and knot it. And then you're going to go to the next 3 and group those together and knot it. You're going to do that on both sides of the blanket. Then find something that is about the width of whatever you like. Put it at the edge of your blanket. Flatten out that fringe and then trim it off. Trim it so that everything comes out nice and even. And then your blanket is done. I mean, it takes a while, but it's so easy. Unless you do what I do. I get to the point of where I can tie off my ends. I get it all laid out on that bed and get it nice and straight where everything looks even. My lines are all nice and straight. And I start tying, and then I get to a point and I'm like, wait a minute. This color is not supposed to be touching that color. So I had to step back and look. I got out of sequence with my colors, and it was extremely noticeable. So I pulled it off the bed, went back out to my work area, untied what knots I had tied, pulled all those strands out, and started from where my mistake was and redid those. And it was somewhere around 27 rows. But it wasn't too bad because it was the weaving. It's not like sitting there frogging out all this crochet and having to redo 27 rows. That would have really stunk. I don't know if I would have corrected it if that was it, being that far into it. But with the weaving, it is super fast. I mean, you just pull the strands out, until you got them all out, and then weave them back in. It's a lot faster than the crochet part. So yeah, this is it. This is it. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention is so that it works out both horizontally and vertically. For each color, you need 3 filet spaces. So if you're using 6 colors like I did, you need 3 for the first color, 3 for the second color, 3 for the third color. So that's 6 on your chain. That's 6, 12, 18, and that's 3 colors. And then 6, 12, 18, that's another 3 colors. So to get it to work out evenly, if you're going to go with a different size other than the chaining 224, just think of it as however many colors you use times 3, that's your stitch multiple. And then add 6 more, no, 7, because you want the turning chain. Then add 7 more so that you end with the same color that you started with. So you need 6 spaces. You need 3 spaces, which consist of a double crochet and a chain stitch. So that gives you your 6 chains. So you have your 3 spaces for your color, and then you have the 7th stitch is your turning chain, if that made any sense at all. It's too early for math. So yeah, that's how I came up with my chain was, all right, I want it like this. Originally, I was going to do 6 repeats, and I was like, nah, it's getting pretty big. So I stopped at 5. Can you see how it has a different effect when you turn it to different directions? It's just, I don't know. I just think it is just stunning. I was trying to come up with, I was trying to come up with a name for it, but I couldn't do it. Somehow I wanted sun and rain worked into it. You know, sunshine and storm clouds, or, you know, something like that. It just seemed like it would be appropriate for it. All right, you guys, thanks so much. That is what I have for you today. And for more interesting ideas, if you click this link right here, it'll take you directly there.